Delaying a meeting, the last couple of meetings, taking people over to get IDs, and now here we are.
I was banking on you being my side. My gratitude.
Well, my reputation precedes.
We're 2 to 3 minutes late, cut me some slack.
We'll call the meeting to order. 10:05. First, we have approval of minutes.
So first we call the
Oh,
roll.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Okay, want to make sure everybody's here. Because otherwise we wouldn't know if everyone was here.
Mr. Richter, if you would.
Mr. Lyle. Present. Ms. Hagan.
Present.
Mr. Knight.
Here.
Mr. Colby. Present. Mr. Stoupert.
Present.
Mr. Caraway.
Present.
Chair Tavares.
Present.
Since you're the chair today, you're normally vice chair.
I know.
You're Chair today, so you're official today.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Director Richter. We're going to move on to the minutes. Approval of the regular minutes of April 27th of 2023. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the regular minutes of May 4th of 2023.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. It has been approved by a vote of 7-0.
I think that's really nice.
Excuse.
I understand
the
second.
Next, if we could have a motion, to excuse our, chair, Commissioner Kaufman.
So moved.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you. 7-0.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna move into the preliminary review of Lombard versus Friends of Bob Thurber for Mayor Committee et al. And that's 2023 D-002.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, it's a complaint that asserts there was not a proper disclaimer on a certain telephone message poll, however you want to identify it. We got responses, so that's the essential allegation. We got responses from the treasurer for the committee of the respondents. We also got a response from the inmate respondent. Those were all supplied to you. You can see my synopsis of it in the response there. My recommendation, based on the responses, is to find no violation against the candidate, or I'm sorry, no violation against the treasurer individually, but find a violation against the candidate committee and impose a fine of $50. I will be glad to answer any of the questions or address any other issues the commission may have.
Any of the commissioners have any questions of Mr. Richter?
Mr. Richter and I phoned Mr. Richter briefly yesterday regarding this particular matter. My only point in bringing up to Mr. Richter was that I didn't feel that the fine was adequate. I agree with finding no violation against the treasurer. However, I don't view this lack of a disclaimer as, a fundraising piece or whatever. This was a push poll, and it was, in the respondent's paperwork that he returned. I felt that it was pretty blatant disregard of our political disclaimer laws here in the state. And so I just wanted to put that out there that respectfully, I didn't think that $50 was adequate for this violation.
Thank you. Anyone else?
What will it be adequate?
$250.
I tend to agree. I don't know what the right number is, but I think a higher, significantly higher fine would be appropriate. 250 sounds reasonable to me.
Any other questions, discussion? Would someone like to make the motion?
Also move.
Thank you.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
And that's for a $250 fine, correct? Okay, just clarifying, okay.
Questions?
Madam Chair, may I ask the executive director, is there any similar precedent? And why did you arrive at a $50 fine?
This is the first time for this candidate committee. We got a response. This is something that generally we would look at as, for someone who's before the commission for the first time, that a $50 fine would be a normal recommendation for me. It would be a bit out of the ordinary for the commission to do this, yes, but as I often say, I'm merely the recommender. And I'll make a recommendation based on what I believe is the appropriate thing, try to be consistent throughout. But if the commission wants to go in a different direction, that's always your prerogative. Obviously, these two members have expressed, their concerns with regard to this. I certainly, my recommendation is different, but I can't argue with their respective opinions on the matter.
Madam Chair,
Sure.
executive, my question is more along the lines, and I apologize for the lack of clarity. Precedent for a similar violation with the phone messaging.
We have rarely received this type of referral or a complaint, I should say, it's not a referral. Particularly for a push pull, we've probably gotten them before for, somebody who maybe it was a push poll, but it was more just a, hey, the election's coming up. Remember to go out on election day and vote for me. I'm Joe Blow, on that kind of a thing. I can't say we haven't gotten one before, but this is a relatively rare type of complaint on this kind of material. And I'd say normally, considering that, we probably, most people probably do put a proper disclaimer on this type of a message. But here, and I think it comes out in the respondent's response. He gives his explanation, and then I know that's what Mr. Caraway, I think, had a real problem with. He just kind of said, yeah, more or less, it was mine, but I didn't think it needed it. It's like, well, I don't know that that's really appropriate to say. Disclaimer should have been on there, because I think it does conclude with, hey, go out and vote for me on election day. So it is a bit out of the ordinary, yes.
Any other questions? Comments?
I guess the one comment I'd make is, further support of Mr. Caraway's perspective. This just, to treat this just the same as, someone who, a candidate or a campaign that just forgot a disclaimer, right? That was clearly, a mistake. And, this is not that. So I don't view this as apples and apples. I view this apples and oranges.
Any other comments? If not, all in favor of the,
Aye.
okay.
That's okay. I was a little hesitant there, though.
Any opposition? If not, it passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we're going to move on to group recommendations, and the first two have been withdrawn by the Board of Elections. That's 2023 R-121 and 2023 R-139.
Guys probably get tired of hearing me say it, but a matter can be withdrawn from the commission's consideration at any time before the commission takes it up. That was the case here. But we already had these on the agenda. So I always like to keep them on for a public purpose, but merely acknowledging them for the record is all that's necessary.
Thank you very much. Director Richter. The next are the $50 fine category. And you want me to just read all of them and then you're going to make some comments? Okay. We have 2023 R, and all of these are 2023 R. It's 111, 129, 145, 151, 153, 154, and 169. Mr. Richter.
Yeah, these are all cases where the initial referral from the Board of Elections was for a failure to file the 2022 annual report. Subsequently, either the individuals notified us that the report was filed and also submitted a response. or Board of Elections notified us that the response. The report was filed. The response, this is the first time that the persons who've been before the commission, the reports were all filed beyond about a week or 2 weeks from the due date for filing. And so my recommendation is to find a violation and impose a fine of $50. I'll be glad to answer any of the questions that the commission may have.
Any questions from commissioners? Do you have a motion?
So
Thank you. Second? Okay, thank you. We've had a motion and a second, properly second. All in favor? Opposed? That would be a 7-0, Mr. Richter.
correct.
This is a $400 fine. We have one case under this. That would be 2023 R-161. Mr. Richter.
This is a case where there was one prior, the report has been filed, the respondent submitted a response. Gave an explanation, it's been synopsized and sent along to all of you. He said he ran simply to get back to the community, did not realize all the filings that would be necessary. He did have a number of priors that were all consolidated last June, in which a $250 fine was imposed. That fine was not paid. So my recommendation, considering his response and the fact that the previous fine has not been paid, is to find a violation and impose a fine of $400. I'll be glad to answer any other questions the commission may have.
Questions of Director Richter? Go ahead.
Director, did the respondent give any indication as to why the previous fine imposed by the commission hadn't been paid when you spoke with him?
That was not, no, I didn't speak with.
Oh, you
him.
didn't
It was a
speak with
written response submitted. It was not addressed. I did go back and check, into our payments file to make sure that nothing had been reflected and no payment had been made.
Any other questions? We have a motion.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. All in favor? Opposed? Vote of 7-0. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to number 34, consolidate with case number 2022 R-282, find a violation and impose a fine of $400. This is 2023 R-143. Mr. Richter.
Mr. Chair, Chair, members of the commission. If you look at the ICW, you can see Mr. Picatello has a red checkered history. We imposed a number of fines, but he has paid all his fines through time. We have an outstanding case that I'm recommending that we consolidate here. The last fine we imposed was $200. And so here, my recommendation is to find a violation and impose a fine of $400. I don't see, in the ICW, I didn't reflect the date on which the report was filed. I think it was sometime in April when he submitted his response, as I recall. I apologize for missing or for forgetting to put that in the ICW. So it's well beyond just a week or 10 days, or 2 weeks from the filing deadline. And so, just kind of in a standard with each subsequent referral, doubling the fine kind of idea that I generally tend to work from. Next fine amount would be $400. That's what I'm recommending. I'll be glad to answer any of the questions that the commission may have.
Any questions from members of the commission? We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a vote of 7-0. Thank you. Next is consolidate with case number 2022 R-593, find a violation and impose a fine of $25 a day with reconsideration option. This is case number 2023 R-119. Mr. Richter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will address this case in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which all have a similar recommendation of consolidating a case and imposing a fine of $25 per day. We had a prior matter that was pending, that was not resolved. It was remaining outstanding. And so just out of convenience, I am consolidating those matters. We have gotten good service on the respondents in each of these cases. This is either the first or second time, depending on which one, that someone's before the commission. I think these are all, well, would be the second time with consolidated case. The reports have not yet been filed. And so my recommendation on this particular case, since that's the one we're addressing, but the next one as well, is to consolidate with the other matter that's outstanding, find a violation, and then pose that per diem fine until the reports are filed. Like I said, just out of the next four, it'll all be the same explanation, so I figured I'd go ahead and say it all in one fell swoop here. But, you know, we're taking this case now, and I say, let's go ahead and deal with each one of them individually. I'll be glad to answer any of the questions that the commission may have.
Are there any questions of Director Richter on this first case? No questions. Do we have a motion? Been moved, second? Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? That would be a 7-0. The next case is, as Mr. Richter indicated, the next three. He's given the explanation, but the first case is consolidate with case number 2022 R-595. Fine violation, impose a fine of $25 a day with reconsideration option. That's case number 2023 R-123. Do we have any questions? Motion? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? That would be 7-0. The next case is consolidate with case number 2020 R-283, find a violation and impose a fine of $25 a day with the reconsideration option. That is case number 2023 R-144. Any questions? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? If not, that's a 7-0 vote. Next is consolidate with case number 2022 R-285, find a violation and impose a fine of $25 a day with reconsideration option. That is case number 2023 R-146. Do we have any questions? If not, a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? It is approved by a vote of 7-0. Next case is consolidate with case number 2022 R-295, find a violation and impose a fine of $25 a day with reconsideration option. This is case number 2023 R-158. Any questions? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? If not, we have a vote of 7-0. Next case is $25 a day with reconsideration option with payment of $250. This is for cases 2023 R-127 and 2023 R-156, Mr. Victor.
These cases both have one prior in which the commission found a per diem fine. One prior, maybe they're consolidated, but the prior matter. They're back again. The reports have still not been filed. We've gotten good service on the respective respondents. And so in standard form, let's say, my recommendation in these two cases is to find a violation and impose a fine of $25 a day, give the respondents the opportunity to have a matter reconsidered, but only if they pay $250 in advance of reconsideration. I'll be glad to answer any other questions the commission may have.
Any questions of Director Richter? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposition? That has been approved by a vote of 7-0. Next is consolidate with case number 2022 R-360, find a violation and impose a fine of $25 a day with reconsideration option with the payment of $250. This is case number 2023 R-120.
Yeah, the explanation is similar to the ones that we just dealt with. You can see the fine recommendation is the same. The difference between this and then the next two cases that we'll address is that there were outstanding matters, that, were not previously addressed, that were pending. And so I'm recommending that we reconsider these cases, with the ones that were pending. But then find a violation to impose a fine of $25 per day. And give them the opportunity to have a matter reconsidered, payment of $250. I'll be glad to answer any other questions the commission may have on this case and or the next two after that that are all in the same circumstance.
Any questions of Director Richter? If not, can we have a motion? Thank you. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? That has been approved by a vote of 7-0. The next case is consolidate with case number 2022 R-279. Find a violation and impose a fine of $25 a day with reconsideration option with the payment of $250. Mr. Richter has given the explanation for these. If there are any questions of the director? If not, can we have a motion? And this is for case number 2023 R-136. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Been approved by a vote of 7-0. Next case is consolidate with case number 2022 R-281, find a violation and impose a fine of $25 a day with reconsideration option with the payment of $250. This is case number 2022 R-1. Are there any questions of the director? If not, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? If not, that's been approved by a vote of 7-0. The next case is $2,850 plus $25 a day with the reconsideration option. There are two cases. Case number 2023 R-157 and case number 2023 R-165. Mr. Richter.
The respondents in these cases have multiple matters that are pending before the commission that have been resolved in increasing amounts of either per diem fines, $25 a day, have been imposed or fine that had been imposed in prior matters. The next step in these types of cases is to identify what the per diem fine would be from the date the report was due. In this case, January 31, 2022 until today. At $25 per day, that's $2,850, plus $25 per day on into the future until such time as the reports are filed. That's the central recommendation on these matters.
Any questions of Director Richter?
I do, just at what point do you sort of push to the next different step as far as enforcement by the AG or whoever has jurisdiction over something like this?
We've been remiss lately. We've had this kind of excellent talk to them about getting things over to the AG's office. Chris is working on that right at the moment, doing a very good job, I think, of getting that. We'll normally, when these matters go to a point like this, we'll send out a subsequent notice to them saying, hey, we're going to refer you to the AG's office if you don't come into compliance. People come, we found that very effective. And then we'll send them along to the AG's office. And so that's what would happen here. The likelihood is they won't do anything. That's standard. We'll see these folks back again next year, more than likely. And you'll see the next recommendation that I made would probably be that for those persons.
Any further questions, comments? There a motion?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We had a vote of 7-0. The next case is $11,400 plus $100 a day with reconsideration option. This is for cases all 2023 are. The first one is 112, 122, 163, and 168. Mr. Richter.
These cases involve situations where there have been multiple referrals on all these various committees. They have not yet come into compliance, obviously dating back a year. This is essentially kind of the maximum fine amount that I will recommend. The 11,400 reflects, the amount from due date, January 31, 2022 until today's date. And then $100 a day on into the future, till they hopefully come into compliance. The interesting, ironic thing about the first case you see listed there, Mr. Bloomquist, he'd been down this path before, got himself into a problem, he referred him to the AG's office. The AG collected approximately $40,000 from him, I think it was.
44,200.
Yeah, he challenged that. Which was originally, his challenge was originally upheld, but then fortunately overturned at the District Court of Appeals here, Franklin County. So we didn't have to pay him his money back. But here he finds himself in the same situation all these years later, and he continues to not file reports. So don't ask me to try and understand what's going on there. I can't even come close. But that's my basic explanation. I'll be glad to answer any other questions that the commission may have. The one thing I will add is if you look at the next two cases, you see the same fine amount, the difference being that I'm consolidating those with other matters that are shown to be outstanding, that are pending before the commission, just kind of clean up prior cases. So I'll be glad to answer any other questions that the commission may have.
Are there any questions of Mr. Richter? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
I,
Any opposition? That has been voted for approval, 7-0. The next is consolidate with case number 2022 R265, find a violation. Code fine $11,400 plus $100 a day with reconsideration. And that is case number 2023 R-124. Richter?
Multiple items outstanding, so I'm recommending that we consolidate with the other case, and impose what's essentially the maximum fine. Hopefully we'll get their attention. They'll file their reports.
Any questions of Director Richter? We have a motion.
so moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? It's been approved by a vote of 7-0. The next case is consolidate with case number 2022 R-296, find a violation $11,400 plus $100 a day with reconsideration option. This is for case number 2023 R-159. Director.
Similar circumstances to, the prior matter, the prior matters. I'm recommending that we consolidate cases in an effort to try and clean up some outstanding matters that we have. But otherwise imposing what's essentially a maximum fine, until they can come into compliance.
Any questions of Director Richter? Is there a question?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? It's been approved by vote of 7-0. The next case is to continue upon the request of staff attorney 2023 R-160.
Yeah, we got a response from, I think it was the treasurer a couple days ago, but when I checked back with the Board of Election, and even the response kind of said, well, we're working on getting things filed with the board. Rather than, and talking with the board, rather than going ahead and making a per diem finding like the past, like give them an opportunity. This is the first time they're before the commission. The first time they give them an opportunity to bring themselves into compliance and bring the matter back to the commission. While I'm speaking, I'll go ahead to the next one. The board is working, one that says continue upon request from the board. The board indicated to us they're working with the candidate and the treasurer on that particular case, trying to resolve it. And they asked the matter be continued to give them more time. And as it relates to the last one, before you get to continue for service, Mr. Pelton called yesterday afternoon saying he's working his best to try and get this done. And he needed more time. So I said, fine, I'll go ahead and grant your request for continuance. And then the rest we haven't gotten good service on. And so I'm recommending continuation on all those. And the chair has the ability to just go ahead and continue those matters.
Thank you, Mr. Richter. And so we'll just continue those matters based on the request of the staff attorney or Board of Elections. We'll move on to reconsiderations. Oh, I need to read those into the record.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So the first one is case number 2023R. I believe all of these are 2023R 160, 137, 141, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 125, 126, 128, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 142, 147, 148, 149, 150, 152, 155, 162, 164, 166, 167, and 170.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Next, we're going to move on to reconsiderations. The first one is reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of a per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $50. This is case number 2022R-258. Director Richter.
Yeah, obviously, these are matters which we imposed a daily fine. And gave them the opportunity to have a matter reconsidered if the reports were filed. In this particular case and the next one, 2022R-477, the response came back where, regardless of whether the committee raised funds or did whatever, neither one of the individuals made it to the ballot for whatever reason. One said the petitions were rejected, the other either chose or didn't get on the ballot. I'm not sure why. Normally I wouldn't go as low as $50, but considering that each of these individuals never made it to the ballot, even though they filed the designation of treasurer, got themselves a campaign committee, and didn't realize the problems, and their first time before the commission, my recommendation, as it states, is to reconsider it, vacate the previous imposition of per diem fine, and instead impose a fine of $50. And we're really just addressing 2022R-258 at this point. I would glad to answer any questions the commission may have.
Any questions of the director? There a motion?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Any opposition? If not, that's a vote of 7-0. Next is reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $50. Mr. Richter has already shared his comments on this. Are there any questions of the director? If not, this is for case number 2022R-477. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much. It's been moved. Second. All in favor? Any opposition? If not, we have a vote of 7-0. The next case is reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $100. And this is for case number 2021R-331.
Here, you can see the synopsis that I made of the response. The report was filed. This was for a failing to file addendums and a post general report. The reports were filed in March. The response talked about the fact that the candidate changed residences. And she thought that everything was closed out, didn't realize it. My recommendation is to, again, reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine, and instead impose a fine of $100.
Are there any questions of Director Richter? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? If not, it's been approved by a vote of 7-0. The next is to reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine, consolidate with case number 2023R-026, find a violation and instead impose a fine of $100. And this is for cases 2023R-140, 2023R-026. Director Richter.
Thank you. The commission decided case number 2023R-026 just in April. So was that, I see it says 4/27/2022. That's wrong. Obviously a 23 case will be decided in 22, April 23, where we imposed a fine of $25 a day, with reconsideration option. There were, that was for a failure to file an addendum. Subsequently, we received this referral from the board, for those failures to file the 2022 annual. There was a request for reconsideration was submitted so that I can solve, I'm putting these two cases together, for the benefit of the respondent. And essentially asking the case number 23 or 6 be reconsidered and the vacate the per diem fine there, consolidate these two cases. 23 are 26 and 2023 are 140. Fine a violation and instead impose a fine of $100 to reflect the finding for both cases. I'll be glad to answer your questions and Commissioner may have.
Any questions?
Madam
Yes.
Chair and Director, I'm gonna assume these people are related, but who? Is this a joint and several imposition of a fine, or how does that work?
Yes, when the commission imposes, unless it's otherwise stated, when the commission imposes a fine, it's joint and several against the candidate, treasurer, and committee. Because there are times where we may only have a committee or a treasurer. Sometimes people may even file just against a candidate. That's kind of rare. But that's essentially the case, yes. And so, as we're telling anybody, as long as I get a check from somebody for the payment, regardless of who it comes from, that's satisfactory for our purposes.
Any other questions of the director? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? That has been approved by a vote of 7-0. The next case is reconsider the matter, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $250, and that case number 2022 R-472. Director Richter.
The reports have been filed. The request for reconsideration obviously submitted. You see the synopsis that I made of the explanation given after initially filing petitions. Candidate subsequently withdrew, was not aware of the ongoing need to file campaign finance reports, but now they've all been filed. Previously, we did impose a fine of $50 in case number 2020 R-112. That has not been paid. But he did pay the fine in the case prior to that, going back to 2012. So my recommendation here, kind of give him a break, as it were, since the committee is also terminated, is to vacate previous position of per diem fine and instead impose a fine of $250. I'll be glad to answer your question.
Any questions of Director Richter? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second. Anybody. Anybody.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? If not, the vote is 7-0. The next case is reconsider the matters, vacate the previous impositions of the per diem fines, and instead impose a fine of $1,000 that includes any outstanding fines not yet paid. And this is for case number 2021 R-227. Director Richter.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the commission, if you look at the reconsideration worksheet, you can see this gentleman has had a what I refer to again as a checkered history before the commission. There are fines outstanding that have not been paid. He has come in requesting reconsideration on this particular case in which we imposed essentially the maximum amount, taking into consideration the number of cases and the he did pay one fine back in 2015, considering the one specific fine, no, two specific fine amounts that were imposed, and the other matters. My recommendation is to reconsider the outstanding matters, those in which we impose per diem fine, vacate the previous imposition of the per diem fines, and instead impose a fine of $1,000. That again includes the outstanding amounts. I'll be glad to answer any other questions that the commission may have.
Any questions of Director Richter? Their motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved in second. All in favor? Any opposition? If not, that is a vote of 7-0. Any other business Director?
I do not have anything else to come before the commission.
Director, I know that Commissioner Faulkner and I had a conversation before we started, and two of us are going to be unavailable on August the 31st.
Oh, interesting, okay. Because that's when I have a matter that Mr. Hicks filed, currently pending. Okay. I'll have to, there's certainly enough time. I have to reach out and look to move that to a later date then. The response, it was set on the 31st because the respondent indicated his availability in various dates. He was available that time. And I think he also listed some September dates. I don't have anything on September meetings per se, so I'll just kick that and I'll let them know as soon as possible, probably later today.
Great, thank
Okay,
you.
but thanks for the early heads up.
Yes, when
Maybe-
you mentioned it, that's when I said, oh, wait, I'm gonna be out of town too.
Maybe we'll have another member appointed by then.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Maybe. But we'll see. But that's, actually, since one of the last times, we got sued again. Matt Borges, who is involved, you're sure somewhat familiar with in the totality, the householder matters, filed a special writ against us in the Supreme Court. One asking the matter be dismissed, the other asking that if the court's not gonna dismiss it, for us to move forward. And so a response was submitted on that on Wednesday. The Attorney General's office has indicated that they feel conflicted. They gave us to special counsel, the law firm of Shoemaker, Loop and Kendrick is representing the commission. I vote to dismiss. They feel pretty good about their bases for doing so. The irony is, I was, oh, you guys are so lucky. I was planning on setting those matters for preliminary review. Well, I was planning on setting them, but I wasn't sure the exact date because I was kind of waiting for what the federal court decides in terms of penalties in the decision out of the federal court case in Cincinnati. That should be coming within weeks, hopefully. But he decided to go ahead and file this motion to try and get the commission to move forward more quickly. And so that's certainly one of the arguments I think was planning on doing it anyway, but holding off until the federal court decided, because we were holding off on that case for most of you here, aside from Ms. Tavares, back in 2020. You're all familiar with, or at least I presume you're all familiar with the filings that were federal charges that were made against Mr. Householder, some other members relating to state issue. No, Senate Bill 6, House Bill 6.
House Bill 6.
House Bill 6. We continued all those matters because of the pending federal litigation. Well, obviously that trial ended a couple months ago. They're waiting to hear what sentencing is. That's what I was waiting for, is to see what came out of that and then set the matters forward. So, when they were originally filed, I remember talking to then member Kreitz and saying, yeah, the likelihood of us dealing with that before you're gone is probably slim to none. Well, obviously none appeared. And so here we are. What exactly is going to happen with that? I don't know, only because, we've got, at the time when we did it, Borges's folks didn't necessarily want it continued, but they also, what they wanted to do was just depose a person that was involved in the matter. They refused to do that, so they had filed suit against us there as well. That was eventually dismissed. But with the fact that there were two of the persons, Mr. Longstreth and Mr. Cespedes, who pled out, and obviously funding being made against Mr. Borges and Mr. Householder, the preliminary review on that could be very, very interesting in terms of how we proceed from there. Because it could be hearing on some matters, on some of the individuals, and maybe potential finding at the preliminary review stage on others, depending on the responses. if we get responses. So anyway, that's pending. We'll see what happens with it. I'll keep you apprised.
Thank you.
Not a
Thank you.
problem.
I have a question. there. So with the Attorney General referring us to outside counsels, does that come out of our budget or their budget?
What do you think?
I think it's our budget.
You got it.
And it's not cheap.
No, potentially up to $15,000.
I was expecting closer to six figures.
No, I mean, certainly it could.
Depends on how much.
Thank you.
How
Depends
far
on
it
where it
goes.
goes and if there's oral argument and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, it's just dismissed. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. But, if it gets dismissed, which obviously we're hoping for, I mean, so far, I had 3 or 4 conversations with the gentleman who's handling the case, actually former Senate President Obhoff is the one handling the matter for us. If it gets dismissed, it's not that we'll be cheap, but it'll at least be reasonable. If not, then we'll see where it goes from there. But if the AG's office actually handles it for us, which, other matters they've done, it's their time and our time, that don't really get billed, their staff does the work and I'll consult with them back and forth. In this particular case, it's billed, yeah.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Sure.
well, I had talked with Phil earlier in the week, but anything new on Blystone?
Chris is working with, the collections division. They've got a new system. He's very well versed now, much more well versed now in dealing with getting things over to them. It's been referred over there. We're gonna follow up with them today, on, giving them the expediency, trying to move that thing forward as fast as
Because
possible.
it has already been referred.
It's been referred.
Any other
Further
questions?
than collections.
I understand.
Yeah.
I just had a question on the next meeting. Do we have any hearings scheduled for that, or is it?
There are no hearings scheduled for
Yes.
20th. Obviously, we talked, there will be a number of preliminary reviews on there that I've, been holding off, that I'm in the process of sending out notice and getting them set for preliminary review. So you will see those, the Board of Elections cases, but no hearings at this point. Obviously, on July 20th, we'll have, the Hicks, continuation of Hicks. And then I will be setting a couple of hearings for August. It's 10th. Obviously, we'll deal with the 31st go on, and then the other Hicks matter will go to September, at this point.
Any other questions of Director Richter? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Second. Thank you. We will adjourn this meeting and see each other at the next commission meeting.
I talked with the chair earlier about your questions, continue the discussion. I was thinking that's some of the stuff we should do in the June meeting. Well, okay. You and I need to chat before you leave.
I can't